I like this idea that like both of us show up like drunk and like just hung. I mean, like we're just barely getting into the studio, and then as soon as the fucking thing switches on, we're like, look at this.
We're like, welcome back, streamers, to another episode of trash.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? The world's literally on fire. So
No, it actually is.
I mean,
they're like, don't go outside today. You might combust.
Right. And don't fall down because you'll get 3rd-degree burns. And don't stand up because you might just pass out. And yeah, the only safe place is in the movie theater these days.
But it's getting there, and that's the trouble.
Right. So just stay.
And then being able to afford to go see the films.
Right. So that's why we're introducing our brand new Why Does Wilhelm Scream apartment complex / movie theater.
Come on over.
You never have to leave.
You can just sleep on my couch.
Right. It's cool. No big deal.
So anyway.
We'll even let you control the remote every once in a while.
No, I hide them.
Right, yeah. You'll watch what we want you to watch.
And like it.
Right.
And speaking of watching what we want you to watch and liking what we want you to like, today we're talking John Waters and his Trash Trilogy, the films Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble, and Desperate Living.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And luckily for you, we'll be doing it at a volume that's not the same as those movies present themselves.
Because it's just screaming.
It is legit just yelling at people.
Everyone just yells at each other.
Like by the time that he gets to polyester, I mean, Divine has, it is watching those, I have not seen, I saw Multiple Maniacs many, many months ago. I didn't rewatch it. And I have not ever seen Mondo Trasho or any of his short films. But just watching the progression from Pink Flamingos to Female Trouble to Desperate Living and then on into Polyester and then on into Hairspray. It is this, you can kind of see like an emotional growth and obviously a technical growth as well, but as you can see a guy who's no longer in a band of Baltimore misfits, who's just this young kid trying to make whatever shocking thing he can. And really, truly progressing as, and again, that's not to denigrate necessarily. Obviously, I think Pink Flamingos and Female Trouble have their place. But this is a person who has gotten better every film that he does.
Which is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Right. You have to, he had to start there to get.
And it's interesting to see the progression of, obviously toning it down once you have a budget in Polyester and you start introducing mainstream actors like Tab Hunter, and then going full blown PG rating out into going into Hairspray and kind of, and honestly, that has to be what made most of his wealth for him, right? Because that's not necessarily how much money that movie brought in during its initial box office run. That was not important, but it's the residuals from the remake and the Broadway musical and so I guess the Broadway musical and then the movie musical version of the Broadway musical and then, whatever. Did you know that he did, and I couldn't find it, but did you know that he did a live read of Pink Flamingos with
like kids?
Right.
Yeah,
and they played it like some Baltimore museum. So it was just an installation.
Well, so this would have been
2015 is when it looked like anyway on IMDb.
Starting around 1990, I think he started to exhibit a lot of his photographic work. And they were mainly photography based, but installation works. And so he started to show those and exhibit those in museums, especially the Baltimore. I don't know if it's the Baltimore Contemporary or if it's the Baltimore Modern. I'm not entirely sure, but he also promised them.
The only thing I know about Baltimore is simply The Wire.
The Wire.
Right, yeah.
Another artist.
If it's not Stringer Bell related, I'm not really sure.
This is true. Stringer was the heart of that series. But Morris Lewis is another artist who famously is from Baltimore and, went to New York for a while, then moved back to Baltimore. Moved back in with his parents. Anyway, it's a different story. But there are, a fair amount of really good visual artists that came from Baltimore as well. But he promised, I believe, most of his personal collection, private collection, to the Baltimore Museum, and that includes Warhols and Cy Twomblys.
Right. And he's a huge bibliophile. Like he has like a whole bunch of rare and out of print books and things like that.
Like an entire, I guess it's just like floor to ceiling. But I mean, also wasn't he sort of famously the one who said, if you go home with someone and they don't have books, don't fuck them.
Right. Yes.
Right. So, man after my own heart. Okay, so we're also going to talk about 2 new films. They Clone Tyrone and The Blackening.
We are.
So we got a packed episode.
And that always works out well for us.
Yeah, because we're always so concise on time anyway, right? we never seem to run past. Someone told me, like, podcasts are really great, like 30-minute segments. I'm like, sure. So you get several with one of ours.
Right.
Great.
You can break ours up into 30-minute segments. That's not a problem.
Works.
Right.
It works. We give you little interludes. But we're also, before we get into any of that, we also wanted to touch on the death of Paul Reubens, the actor best known for creating and portraying Pee Wee Herman, right? Died at the age of 70.
Yeah, of cancer, and kind of hid it from everybody, which I think
for the past
6 years, I think, something like that. Which, and not to get into the macabre and like, but I think that's the way to do it, especially if you're a celebrity. Like, I can't imagine. I like that. Like, and again, I don't necessarily. I think we've had some significant deaths, but Norm Macdonald kind of did the exact same thing, where like no one really knew he was struggling. And then Saget passed away, but that was kind of sudden, like from a blow to the head. So that was a different thing. But I think rather than having this public outcry, I think it's definitely the way to go, just to kind of like leave. And he left a really loving note and said, "Sorry, I couldn't. I didn't share it with you." But yeah, you and I kind of grew up in the era of Pee Wee Herman. I remember seeing the HBO special and
in 81.
Yeah, something along those lines. Or if it had been like afterwards on VHS.
It was like a TV movie, right?
Right. Yeah, and it was like a risque.
It was like an adult version of Pee Wee's Playhouse, right?
Right. Because when Pee Wee started out, like, there was always that kind of like all of the people and kind of I mean, he really had and again, I don't necessarily know if anyone's ever really kind of talked to this, but like he did have a Waters aesthetic to him where it was very pushing the boundaries. It was never like gross necessarily, but it was introducing, a drag sensibility, that kind of like day glow mid-century mod sensibility and this kind of garish, a lot of the nonsensical things and like and it
was campy. You could call it campy,
right. And then when I it would have been right in the wheelhouse, and also I was like kind of Pee Wee's Playhouse came out pretty much when I was in junior high and high school, so it would have been cool to watch. It was like it was one of those things where it just like everyone talked about it, and I don't know. We saw it on Saturday mornings, but it was never seen as like it was a kid's show, but it still had, I mean, like all of the claymation and all the different animation styles and the people that were on it and the things that he was doing. I don't know. It was really, really. I was thinking about that time and about how like we had the kids that were growing up in that era had things like Ren and Stimpy and Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead came a little bit later, but these kind of like really kind of subversive, almost like Fleischer-esque, like scary things that kind of push the boundaries for the kids of like
Daria.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the scariest one.
But I mean, if you ever go back and watch any of those like Max Fleischman, like those early black and white, it's like the Betty Boop type stuff, and it's just like creepy ass images and music, and it's like you always see it play. Like I think that was what they were playing in Skinamarink. It was like on the TV. They're all in the public domain at this point, so they're easy. And then when I did not see Pee Wee's Big Adventure in the theater, but by the time that it had come out, we all went to Big Top Pee Wee. Big Top Pee Wee was like a stop down because we couldn't wait for that one. I mean, it was a little disappointing, but I mean, just from a sensibility of like, it wasn't exactly the same thing for us, but I think we were kind of aging out of it. But, and then right about that same time is when, his arrest happened, which was fucking stupid and weird and unfortunate. I was reading about that today too, about how like he grew up in Sarasota, like, and so he'd wanted to get out of the Pee Wee persona. And so like he didn't like there was a lot of stuff like Pee Wee's Playhouse got canceled. It didn't. he had not signed another contract to renew his TV show. He wanted to start getting out of the Pee-wee persona. And he was during a hiatus, trying to figure out what he was going to do. He was staying with his parents, and went to a theater, and the Sarasota Police Department had people camped out in the theater. And it's weird because and it's just oddly coincidental, but had he shown up to the theater like 5 minutes earlier, he would have seen someone getting arrested for exactly what he got arrested for. And it was just one of those things was he sat in a theater. They didn't get up and arrest him immediately. They waited till he left the theater, and then, and they booked him. And it was just a matter of course, it caught the news. And it's just one of these weird things that we build these people up and then demonize them as soon as we possibly can. And it's such a fucking heartbreaking thing, because this is a guy who, by all accounts, and everything that's come out after his passing, and all these things, all these comedians have come out and shared the cameos or the special text that he gave them on his, and he spent the last year of his life making sure he was doing video text for people on their birthdays and release. And it was just, why do we do that? And then again, why does the fucking Sarasota Police Department have nothing better to do than send 4 undercover assholes into a fucking adult theater and to catch people masturbating? Or, and again, and I'm not going to, I don't want Why Does Wilhelm Scream be the podcast for promotion of public masturbation. But it's good to know that there are no other crimes in Sarasota in 1991 where we didn't have to have police, we could go in and make sure that, people masturbating got their just rewards.
But again, you're touching on bigger issues here too, right?
Sure. No, absolutely.
And especially this idea of getting trapped in a persona, and not just in sort of a celebrity way, but also, I think in our everyday lives, we can get trapped in personas. But someone like Paul Reubens, who's now, who became successful, was successful as Pee-wee, and then gets stuck because that's what everyone expects, right? He can't go do anything else. Well, just do Pee-wee. That's what we want. That's what we're all here to do, right?
Dance monkey.
You're right. And we see that today with the proliferation of IP, and everybody's like, nope, you're that now, and that's all you are, and you can never do anything else. And so, it's I would imagine it would have been easier then than it is now, but still, you can't escape that. And then, you would think cops have something better to do, but as we see all the time, apparently they don't, right? And they are not here to protect us, Jason. They do not serve and protect us. There is nothing in the police department's charter or anything that says that they're even obligated to do that. So can we just stop with this bullshit of well, but who are you going to call when you're in trouble? Well, fucking not the cops.
Right. As we'll talk to.
I'm not. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Just going back to what Pee-wee, I think, kind of opened up to all of us. And I'm not to say that he was the reason behind all of this, but this was a man who subtly introduced queerness, and I don't mean that from a gay perspective. I just mean from to a group of kids who were just present on every Saturday morning, and that were receptive, and that he could talk to. He introduced things to drag. I don't think it's interesting, kind of looking at that show today and seeing if it. And again, I hate to be that asshole who's oh, you can't make things anymore, right? But would that show have the impact, and would it have stayed on for however many seasons it was on a Saturday morning geared towards kids, when you had, significant, things that we're rallying against today, that we're trying to hold back from kids today.
Now clarify who you mean by we.
Right. Society, quote unquote, society, or the GOP. I don't know, whatever the fucking, the anti-intellectual.
Right. The anti-intellectual, the anti-quote unquote woke. Right. I don't know how else to say.
Yeah, and I don't even really care about sugarcoating anymore because it's so fucking depressing.
And just ignorant.
Right.
All of this comes from a place of ignorance.
If your stance is that you don't want people to learn about things, and you want to gatekeep knowledge, and you want to, in order to not to hurt feelings, then go fuck yourself.
Yeah. But also, if you want to regulate how people live,
Right. And go fuck yourself.
Go fuck
too.
yourself.
Right.
I mean, because that's what
right. And that's what the Sarasota police were doing. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
right. Yes.
Right. I mean,
because what do people think happened in like adult theaters?
Right. Right.
When you go there for the stories?
Well, it wasn't like he stood up in front of the crowd and
right. I mean, well, let's not. I mean, we don't need to like paint a picture.
Right.
But
here are the things he did and things he didn't do. And now I'm going to just
left-handed, right-handed. I'm sorry.
Right.
Okay.
So I mean, so it's very, very sad. It's sad to see a true artist. I mean, however you want to characterize it, but I mean, it's somebody who I think had an impact on. I don't know, man. Speak for you, but certainly, growing up, he meant something.
You came to him at a different age, which was probably beneficial.
Right.
And I mean, I can look back retrospectively and think about all of the ways in which he was subverting normal Saturday morning TV. Like you said, the way that he was introducing a kind of queerness.
I mean, he married a fruit salad. He had
right. And I do think, I mean, I'm glad that you pointed out the idea of queer not in a homosexual context, right? Because I think too often, anyway, I mean, the nomenclatures are ridiculous, but I mean, very much like a queer sensibility, very much a kind of, drag sensibility. I mean, I think the connection between he and Waters is probably closer than we really.
I mean, it really is kind of opening it up to this idea of, not expecting the unexpected, but being open to the unexpected, to be open to the weirdness, and to allow for that type of nonsensical joy of life that we so often jettison because we've got to get to point A from point A to point B.
Right. And this is what I, even as a child, appreciated about Pee-wee's Playhouse was the irreverence. I know that I sound like I'm just not very much fun, where I've been like, I don't really like a lot of comedies. And now I'm going to be like, Pee-wee was kind of like small doses for me.
Right.
And
sure.
I was like, I was cool with. I think I liked Playhouse more than I did the movies. There's a kind of ridiculousness there that is, yes, joyful and fun, but sometimes is just too much for me.
See, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, I love. I mean, like to this, like the whole road movie aspect of it.
Yeah.
And just the ludicrousness of him being that fucking James Dean character, right? That's so. Yeah, I fucking love that movie so much. Yeah, it's not.
I don't mean to, this is
a
personal aesthetic thing. I mean, because like I don't really dig Ren and Stimpy either. I never have, and that's the one where people look at me. They're like, "You don't?" I'm like, "Look, man, if you want to whiz on an electric fence, that's fine. But I'm just not really like here for it." So, but again, I sound like I'm no fun, but I am. I'm a lot of fun. Come hang out.
Just don't talk about certain things.
But I would never stop you from watching Ren and Stimpy and enjoying it.
The first 2 seasons, man. When that, I mean, Ren and Stimpy's
but again, like when I said something about Daria, I'm like, yes, like I was totally into Daria.
Yeah, and of course you were, because you're basbasically the male embodiment of Daria.
Exactly. See, because I bet
looking in a mirror for you.
I bet you Daria wasn't really into Ren and Stimpy either. So
she hated Beavis and Butthead as
well. Yes. But no, I think I grew to appreciate Paul Reubens more and more as I got older and could see things more from just because as I'm a kid and I'm watching this, I'm like, why is it so loud? Why are they just yelling? What is going on? I did love the secret word of the day. Right. Again, I think, of course I did. But moving away from that, you can see the kind of intellectual subversiveness. You can see the artistry in that that I, couldn't as a 8-year-old.
Right,
9-year-old.
right.
So...
All right, let's get into
rest in peace, Paul Reubens.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, you're masturbating in the sky now. I don't want to leave it on that, but look. I stepped in it and I said it, and I'm going to live with it because I'm an asshole, and that's where we are.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk They Clone Tyrone or the Blackening?
Whichever one you want to talk about first, I'm good with. Let's talk about, since you mentioned They Clone Tyrone, let's talk about They Clone Tyrone.
Because that's what I have written down first.
I'll leave
Okay.
it. Open it up.
They clone Tyrone. This is a pulpy sci-fi mystery caper in which an unlikely trio investigates a series of eerie events, alerting them to a nefarious conspiracy lurking directly beneath their neighborhood called The Glen. Fontaine, a drug dealer, is shot dead by a rival Isaac and then is shocked to find himself alive and unharmed in his own bed the next morning. He and the pimp, Slick Charles, and sex worker Yo-Yo begin looking into the incident, and their search eventually leads them to a vast underground complex where a government-backed lab is performing experiments on the local black community. Realizing that he is a clone, Fontaine initially feels despair, but decides he needs to stand up to the white institutional overlords for the sake of his neighborhood and the non-clones who still live there.
I wish this wasn't a Netflix movie, man. I wish this was something I wish this was like 5, 6, 7 years ago when this could have gotten a really, really good theatrical release. Like, come out like around the same time that Get Out comes out, right? Or where we're open to that, like just being blown away by just a really well acted and just a well performed story.
Yeah.
It was beautifully shot.
It was.
The colors are amazing. The costuming is amazing. The dialogue is
it's got that kind of blaxploitation look to it, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I mean, like, and that's part of the intent of like the white organization kind of keeping these people in this kind of like ideal
right, but it
world.
just looks like that kind of 70s. I mean, just the way it's shot has that sort of color tone.
Right.
That's
and just all of the ideas. This is a movie that, like, I've seen it twice now, like poring over it and kind of going back through the details and just all the implications of the secret society and all the things that they could do with this story moving forward after this, right? It's so I don't know. I was like I so expect Netflix movies to suck when they come out. This one looked intriguing, so and I thought, I think Boyega is. Why are we not giving that guy more movies, man?
Right.
Like, he's so intimidating and good in this.
Well, because he stood up for himself and spoke out against things.
I get it.
And he was brilliant in the Small Axe series.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you.
And Fox is the best. I mean, it's probably since Ray. I mean, like, I have not seen Fox this good in a really, really long time. And it taps into all of his great sensibilities. And it puts him in a role where he is secondary to Boyega. And even to the point where he's secondary in this. I mean, like, obviously secondary in the story, but like from an alpha male, beta male kind of like perspective, and like who's ruling the roost. He takes his cues from Boyega, who's the drug dealer. But damn, he's so good. And like in every there's so much dialogue. There's so much good stuff going on in there. There's one, just the one is like they're walking into the lab. And there's like, I guess they're going into the building where the lab, before they get down the elevator. And he's like, curiosity killed the cats. And they're like, we're a bunch of motherfucking cats right now. It's like, we're cool cats, but we're still cats. Like, it's just shit like that. It's like every.
Do not get in that elevator.
Like, I highly recommend, like, when you watch this, to like turn on the captions, because you can just capture it. Because there's a lot of stuff going on in the background too. It's like there's just it's a lot of rat-tat-tat. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, but that Fox is so good at that throughout the entire film. And it is him playing off Boyega. And like you said, it gives him that chance to do the little side comments. I mean, playing the sort of, he's not really a beta male, but he's sort of,
sure,
like you said, secondary
to
Boyega. And so he gets to play the smartass. He gets to play the kind of like reluctant, okay, fine, I'll go in the truck and see what's back there, as he's making all these smartass comments all the time. And he gets to just steal the scenes.
Right. He's so good at that. I mean, so like, good. And he's been doing that. I mean, like, before he became a huge star, like, if you go look at some of the movies like Booty Call and like some of the other ones that were when he was coming up, where he was kind of in that same role, where he was the comedic foil. He's so good at that. And so to see him come back to that, it's really, really good. Do you know the name of the female actress? Because she's great as well. Like, the whole Nancy Drew thing was
that was brilliant.
How many fucking adventures has this bitch been on?
It's all vanilla shit, right? Right. It always ends up being some vanilla sex shit, right? Or some missionary shit, right?
Yeah, missionary vanilla.
shit.
Yeah.
Tiana Paris.
Yeah, she's great as well. I mean, as is Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, like like Sutherland was born and like has been throughout his career, but he's born to play
a
that,
racist.
Well, no, to play that kind of villain, right? I mean, like,
Right.
and I don't even know like if like Kiefer's really truly racist in this, other than he just believes in them. I mean, like I guess that's a racist thing, but he's just part of the machinery, right? So
Right.
it's like
Look,
everyone's got a boss, right?
Look, you can. Yes, if you endorse eugenics, you're probably a racist. I'm just because essentially this is kind of a film about eugenics, right? I mean, it's these white scientists. Well, twist, right? Led by a black scientist who's actually Fontaine / Tyrone. Anyway.
Right. He's the clone. Yeah, he's the clone of the clone, right?
Yeah. But they're running experiments on these clones and in this community as a way to kind of keep them depressed, keep them socioeconomically depressed. But also he's trying to figure out a way to make them assimilate over generations.
Right. So there's not ever going to, the idea is over generations, there will no longer be a black or a white race. There's just going to be America, right?
Well, but I mean, it's going to be a white race.
Right.
But that's the selling point, right? It'll just be like America, right?
And it's not just clones. So the clones exist to play parts. They play the drug dealer. They play the pimp. You assume they also play the drunk on the corner, and so they're all having roles to play. And that's one of the things that Boyega, in his journey, is coming to realize that he's part of the system and that he's behaving and how he's been taught to behave, but also if he stays to buy in, if he doesn't take the red pill, whatever, then he stays in the in the world where he's just a drug dealer and he's keeping his people down. But it's also they're also experimenting on them with additives to fried chicken, and all this sounds how it sounds, right? But
hair products,
the hair products,
and grape juice,
and grape juice that's in church, which I thought was the funniest part. Well, not the funniest part, but a really funny part. And also in music. So like there's certain subliminal messages in music that will calm people down, or make them go off and do certain things. And then they all have, the clones all have a catchphrase that's programmed in them. So if they hear it, they are no longer allowed to act on their own. They're under a control of one of the agencies. I thought this was just, I thought it was brilliant. I mean, as I was watching it, I felt like, especially at the first time through, I thought like things like goddamn chicken and a couple of things were
stores that are dranks.
Right. I think that was a little on the nose, but then again, I come to understand why it's there, right? I mean, it helps, right? It's there to prod the story along, of course, and it's there to stand out.
And it's a signifier, right, for us, the viewer. And it does double duty too, because it's these are places or things constructed by these sort of white institutional overlords, and of course that's how they're going to see this. Right. I mean, it's their kind of stereotypical racist portrayal of, oh, of course you would go to a liquor store called Hot Drinks, right? Or goddamn chicken. Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's one of those. I don't really hear anybody talking about it or writing about it, and I don't. It's weird that it's going to exist on Netflix. There's never going to see a DVD release, and that it's just going to exist as this thing that will be there for a month, and then it'll be shuffled off into the coil of the Netflix algorithm. But I think it's a really interesting piece of cinema that I do think needs to be watched. I mean, it's especially as we exist, in this idea today where we're trying to, and again, not to bring everything back to culture politics or to fucking whatever the fuck we're doing.
Yeah, but this movie is about culture politics.
Right. But I mean, as we are trying to keep down, critical race and all of
and
these,
affirmative action.
Right. Yeah, fuck. There's so much shit going on, man. I cannot fucking keep it all in my head.
I know, and none of it's good.
None of it is good. None of it is good.
But I mean, this movie speaks to that, and I think this is why we're lamenting that it's not more widely talked about or widely seen, because there's a lot of good conversations I think that could be had around this. I mean, look, it's on one hand an allegory of sort of the social economic system that we live in and that we see, and it's a portrayal of this is how we keep people down this kind of social engineering. Look, having certain kinds of food in certain kinds of neighborhoods, having certain kind of stores in certain kinds of neighborhoods, this is not an accident, right?
Right.
It's not an accident. The way we use music, the way we use advertising, it's all in this film. There's also, I mean, you could have an allegorical take on sort of the crack epidemic of the 80s. It's the same thing, right? You know, nothing was done to stop that. And in some cases, it was even
encouraged.
Right. So, yeah, tie that in with what's going on today, right? The anti-wokeness, to bring that back again. Affirmative action being struck down. Critical race theory being an intellectual boogeyman. Right? Yeah, this is a really pertinent and sort of important film. And I never thought I'd say that about a Netflix movie.
Right, exactly. And you know, this is, you look at something like Hollywood Shuffle or I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, that we're kind of telling similar stories to a humorous degree as well. Yeah, it's, I don't know.
The humor here is subtle, though.
Absolutely,
I mean, it's funny, and it's really funny, but it's also really smart in its use
Coen
of humor.
Brothers-esque, right? I mean, it's not like Oh Brother, right? I mean, but these are three lovable losers, right? And these are the three least expected, right? That are going to become heroes. Which obviously, I mean, it makes sense to choose the people that they chose, the professions that those people are in, but that they chose specifically for this story to break this out. And I do think that, like, and then we'll talk about the Blackening in a second, but I think this is. You know, we've talked about these movies, as of late that have shown the Black experience in a more normalized sense, where it's not about othering. It is about just showing it as it is. So it becomes it leaves the other, right? It becomes something that we're all, used to. And I mean, that interaction between the three of them, and especially Yo-Yo, and I think also they find out, like, I think one of the really subtle pieces of this movie, that one of the things that it does is like the lessening of the family and like the removal, because when we find out that Boyega, he's all driven by this dead younger brother. That doesn't exist. It did exist, but not for Boyega. Boyega's just a clone. He never knew him. And then he has a mother that he provides for in his apartment. But when he breaks down the door to her room, he realizes she's just a recording, right? So this idea of like we're removing these familial aspects that are so key and important, and we're just playing lip service to them, and we're also using them to keep these people. Man, there is a lot to unpack here. And again, it's fucked that it's just, that it's not getting like this, for whatever, this should be a movie that people are talking about, that people are excited about, that like Get Out was. Like Get Out was just kind of a fucking eye-opening wake up of like, all right, here's a horror movie, and it is a damn good horror movie, but also there's a lot of fucking shit going on, and now we're all going to sit here and pick it apart and understand it. I think this is on that level.
I do too. And I was just going to say, like, I know that at a certain point, everything becomes deconstruction, but there is so much here, right? Again, to sort of pull threads on. It's a good conspiracy movie.
Right.
Well, just in general.
This is not a preachy film at all.
Oh, no.
This is all like, you have to pick this out. And if you just wanted to enjoy a good, not action, but a good like mystery, this is a good movie in general.
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, you start digging into it and there's even more there. Right. And more to apply different lenses to as well. So, yeah, hopefully more and more people, maybe, you know what, this could be a film, and I'm not joking here, where people in higher education pick up on, right, and show certain classes and use in different courses that deal with social constructs, social issues, right, other socioeconomic dealings. I don't know.
Well, just to show it as a entertaining contrast to real world events that we've been doing since the beginning of our history, right? I mean, like, so you can show this and then speak to the Tulsa Massacre. You can show this and speak to the
anything like that. The Watts riots, the Detroit riots. I mean,
what were the pilots that they were testing on? I can't remember.
The Tuskegee Airmen. Yeah.
I mean, so there's
and the Tuskegee Institute and all of them. Yeah.
It's yeah, and or go back to the the CIA bringing in drugs into California,
different communities,
right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, this is a movie that, like, were this released in when the Hughes brothers were making films, or Singleton were making. I mean, like,
Sure.
this came out in the late 90s.
If this
or
came
early
out
90s.
around Menace to Society or Boys in the Hood,
People would be going fucking nuts for
Mhm.
it. This would be This would be a seminal film.
Yeah. Even if it had a theatrical release like Get Out, I mean, this would be.
Yeah.
Well, go see it, listener.
Just log in, go see it.
Go see it. Okay. Let's talk about The Blackening.
All right.
Kind of on the heels of They Clone Tyrone. So The Blackening, we have 7 black friends from college reunite on Juneteenth weekend at a cabin in the woods. Unbeknownst to them, there is a killer in their midst with a vendetta and a penchant for games. They will have to use their street smarts and knowledge of horror movies to help them stay alive.
First off, the tagline for this is the best tagline of any movie in probably the past decade. Is "They can't all die first." It's so good. It's so good, right? It's so, like, I think this movie, I enjoyed it. I think it works best if you see it with a crowd, because, again, I don't think it quite hits all its points. I don't think Tim Story is a particularly talented director. Like, I mean, I say talented. That's very demeaning. I don't think he's a standout director in my mind. I think he's very workmanlike, and I think he's sufficient in a lot of ways. I think there's a few films that I've really liked of his, like I like Barbershop and a couple of others. But then there's some, like, like he's handled middle of the road comedies like Taxi and the Fantastic Four movies and things like that. So, like, he's hit or miss for me. He is, to me, a studio director, and that I'm never going to get excited about anything that he does. Now, there were a couple of different writers on this. One of the writers was Dwayne, the guy who played Dwayne. I think he's really funny in some of the things that he's done. I don't like, to me, obviously this is a horror comedy that leans very heavily on the comedy. This is not a very scary movie, nor does it really intend to be.
And it's a pretty postmodern film.
Sure. Yeah, it's all very, Craven and Williamson.
It's knowing and
right. I think the dialogue is really good. I do think the interactions between all of the characters is really well done, and I think some of the stuff that they do with, like, the Adderall scenes and the where they, she starts seeing the
almost like the chemical equations, yeah.
Right. I think all of it's. I think this movie does what Tyrone does as well, is that it normalizes a group of black friends and doesn't put them in It doesn't put them in black situations where we would quote unquote black situations. What I'm saying, like, I don't know. Maybe you correct me.
No. I think
but just
right. I mean, I think you're saying, like, when we think of a film like this, we're thinking of something specific, right?
Right.
Something quote unquote black. But what we get is what other people would typically think as a quote unquote white movie.
Right. Sure.
Because these are all, it wasn't an accident that I put in there these friends from college. I mean, right? They all went to college together.
They're all relatively successful.
They're all right. They all seem to be middle class, upper middle class. They're all driving very nice cars, right? They make fun of the one character's Android phone.
Right.
But so they're very successful. They're going to a cabin in the woods
for a college reunion.
For for a small kind of, there's 7 or 8 of them, right? Reunion. So I think what you're getting at is like, oh, it's not taking place in the hood like They Clone Tyrone, which is, I mean, a lot of what people are going to think of. Well, it's not in an urban area. It's not.
And I think one of the things that this movie does that's very interesting from a perspective from that perspective is that it introduces what I would imagine a question that exists today is that what does it mean to be black? And, like, where, because, again, the whole conceit of this film and the person who's trying to kill them is that he was othered from them because he wasn't quote unquote black enough. He didn't know how to play spades. He was othered when they were all younger, not to excuse the othering, but he was when they were all in college together. They ostracized him for not having enough credentials to be, his black card wasn't strong enough, essentially.
Right. And in fact, at one point it got revoked.
Right. and then all of them are all forced with, the game that they played called The Blackening, which has a very, blackface character in the middle of the game.
It's a Sambo character.
Right. Yeah. Sure, yes, thank you. Is asking them questions about their blackness and making them answer questions about Black history and making
in the
them
TV
kind
show
of
Friends.
right, and making them question one another essentially. And I think I again, I'm obviously not Black, but I wonder how much that conversation actually happens. And I would imagine quite a bit in this day and age of where we are is from a perspective from a perspective of again suppressing CRT and having Trump as leader of of the free world, and having us to kind of have to question this messaging that makes us kind of question our sanity in a lot of different ways, right? Where it's just like okay, good people on both sides, and again, I don't want to get into that debate about that, but I mean but that idea is kind of fucked up. And but again, when you have someone in that kind of power, it's not unnormal or not. It's not unnatural for you to take pause and to consider it. And I wonder. I mean, I wonder if this is. I don't know how this is actually speaking to Black people. I have not spoken to any Black people about this movie specifically, but I did think that was really, really a point that kind of stood out to me of this group of people that are struggling with identity, and as a lot of us all are anyway. But I mean, again, and not to say all lives matter, but it's
a lot easier for you and I to struggle with.
Sure,
identity.
absolutely.
I mean, like
100%.
I always and I don't mean to say that I joke, but I will always say that, like, I will never, as empathetic as I might be to people, I will never understand what it's like to be a Black person or a woman.
Right.
I
and
can't
certainly not a Black woman.
Right. And so their struggle with identity is much different than mine. I understand that, like, any sort of struggle I have, I still am struggling with identity from a privileged place, right? And I just mean that in recognizing the kind of privilege that a straight white man has in this world, right? Or at least in this country. Whether I want it or not, it's there, right? The best I can do is recognize it and try not to abuse it, right? But one of the things that's interesting about how they question each other is, and I see this from time to time in academia, where you will have students who will use Black vernacular English in a piece of writing, and I have seen Black academics get upset and say, no, this is the kind of language that we're supposed to use now in college. And I mean, in my head, I think I have the question of why, right? Why? Because in my opinion, academic English is just gatekeeping, right? It's just keeping certain people out or making them conform to your perceived correctness and use of language. And it's that same idea. But I mean, these characters struggle with those kinds of ideas, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I will say, on a whole, this movie doesn't work quite as well, obviously, as they clone Tyrone. It has its moments, and I think overall it's a fun movie. I do think they were a little, like, I do wish the Clifton character was a little less Carlton.
I do too.
I don't really know why. And again, I feel like that's a Tim Story thing. I feel like we're gonna make this ridiculously obvious. And look, I like Diedrich Bader in Office Space, but anytime that Diedrich Bader shows up in a movie, I am very, very. He was fine in this.
Yeah.
But he's a distraction to me a lot of times. And again, I don't necessarily. It just feels like a cheap comedy movie. And again, no offense to Diedrich Bader. If he ever listens and wants to come defend himself, 100% on board. And again, he doesn't have to defend himself, right? Yeah, just talk. I'm sure he's a hilarious guy. I would love to talk Office Space with him. I don't mean this as a denigration, but he's been in a lot of those Friedberg, Seltzer, fucking shitty ass movies where they're just the fucking worst. Mm-hmm. And so I get it. Everyone's got to pay the bills. It has lended him to reduce his credibility in my mind when he shows up in a movie, whatever that's fucking worth.
And that character could have been any.
It could have been anybody,
white
right?
guy
It doesn't necessarily need
kind
to be
of funny,
right?
And I think he does. I mean, he's really the only white character we see who isn't
a hillbilly.
Yeah,
cracker,
and he's there. I mean, as a kind of ally, and I mean that like
Right,
in the
right,
kind of
right.
like political sense where he's like, well, if I got an invitation to go to the barbecue, I wouldn't go because,
Right.
and they're all like, oh, good answer. Right. or they find like a mask in his car and they think he's the killer. He's like, no, I understand how that looks and I understand that. So I do like that kind of what he brings to
Right.
that, but it could have been anybody. And it was probably, I don't know if it overstayed its welcome. I mean, it could have been like just, you know, here and there and not as much as it was, but
Yeah. I liked all of the interaction. Most of the interactions, I say a lot of all of them. I'm babbling at this point. I really liked the interactions. I liked the little asides that each of the characters had. I even liked like the rap snacks bit and the android bit. And I really, her character,
Ex-Mayo?
Yeah, Ex-Mayo's character, when she hugs what's her face and it's like, oh, you smell like dick.
Yeah.
It's like, what you been doing? And the guy walks out.
I think the performances are all pretty good, except for the Clifton one. But I mean, I know that's not.
And the Clifton one's not bad until you find out that he's the killer, right? I mean,
Right.
It really, like, it's pretty bad. Like the whole idea of like, I don't know how you play it. I don't know how you make it where it's not so obvious. But making him a Carlton and then having him vote for Trump twice, it would be better if it was just some outsider who there's a way to play that where it's just a guy who doesn't feel comfortable, one in his own skin or in the group put together, without having to be this Urkel type character.
That's the thing. He's like a
Amalgam
conflation of Urkel and Carlton.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
she even calls him Carlton at one point,
right?
Right,
And you're and so there's a lot there, and it's too over the top where none of the other characters are, right? I mean,
yeah, everyone else is a real fucking character,
right?
It's a real fucking person,
right? And they have different aspects to them, different sort of identifiers of blackness. So Namdi's from Africa,
right?
King is an ex
gangbanger and married, but he's married to a white woman.
Right.
That's one of the funniest lines. It's like, if I'm married, when they're trying to figure out who's the blackest is, and like, I'm married to a white woman. He's like, that does not help your case. Like, I guess you're right.
And then you have Allison, who has a white father.
Yeah.
Right. And then, I mean, Lisa's kind of the beauty. Right. And then Shanika's the character Ex-Mayo is just like the loudmouth, kind of like big over the top characters. I mean, but these are all, so they're types, right, of a type, but they're not over the top. I mean, they're just like, those are part of their character traits, and that's
the inner dialogue between the characters.
That's good. That was
really funny.
That was really great. That was.
I do think this movie was a premise without an end before they actually made it, and they were like, well, we'll figure this shit out, because it felt like they were gonna paint themselves into a corner with a one with a white savior, and two with like with this being overly racist, people coming to kill them. But again, I think that their out was, oh, we'll make one of us ridiculous, right? But that's the thing, is that once you realize that none of the other characters are as ridiculous as this character, then of course, right, you know what's going to happen, right? You know the outcome.
And I was half expecting him to switch into something less ridiculous.
Right. Kind of Kaiser Soze it. Yeah. And just not live anymore.
Right. And then he didn't. And I was like, well, that, because I mean, you know what's coming. Like, And
that would have been, and again, I know we sit up here and like, oh, this movie would have been a lot better if, but it would have been cool. It would have been cool had he been like turned into like this, like where that had formed his, now of course the whole idea, right, is he ends up drinking that night and hitting somebody, and then
spend some time in jail.
So it ruined his life essentially. It would have been kind of cool though for him to play the Carlton role and then like realize that he's, quote unquote, the blackest person in the room or whatever, or like he'd taken on whatever affectations he thought that those people would respond to.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a fun movie. Let yourself go with it. It's fun.
It's fine. It's a fine movie. But I think, again, like you see opportunities for things.
The pieces are greater than the whole, for sure. Yeah. So it's one of those films I think you could leave on in the background and just like
fold laundry.
Fold laundry, hear the jokes and laugh at, and then and then go from there. It's to me also one of the other set pieces is realizing that they all watched Friends, and instead of living single, and they're all realizing who the black characters were to the point where they knew the name. And Nandi's like, damn, did y'all watch that show or what?
So one of the questions in the game is to name all the black characters that appeared on Friends, and if they get the answers wrong, then a character off screen dies. And so they go through and they name all the black characters who appeared on Friends. We're all like, well, I didn't watch the show, but
I do. Yeah, I knew Ace Tyler was on one time.
And so they name all of the actors and characters that appeared on Friends, but that wasn't the correct answer. The correct answer was, I don't know. I don't watch that show.
Right. I watch Living Single, right. Which is what Friends ripped off. Right.
So I thought there were some really clever, smart moments.
All right.
Okay.
So,
but an interesting double feature with the Clone Tyrone, I think.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Trash trilogy time?
Let's get into it. I'm going to take my pants off, and I'm going to now do this podcast with my butthole the rest of the time. You might want to look away.
No one needed to hear that or imagine that, but that was fun. So
at the Fort Worth Film Club, we, for our July screening, and how we program films here is kind of esoteric, I guess, is we program around themes, and the leadership board was sitting around, and we had kind of a pink theme for July, and I was like, let's just do Pink Flamingos. And there's a 4-person board member.
And no one told you no.
And no one said no. And this was probably back in February or March.
Yeah.
And so as we get closer and closer, I'm like starting to freak out a little bit.
Because you sent me a text and you were like, is this too much?
Right, because we'd never shown an NC-17 movie. I'm inviting people to, like, people walked out of Funeral Parade of Roses, which...
Well, I think it was past their bedtime.
It definitely was past their bedtime, and they probably...
But they didn't come back.
They probably couldn't read English. No offense to those people. I don't need advice. Well, maybe they got confused. They weren't expecting a subtitled film. And they were like, shit.
They came because they're the fluent Japanese student who was able to watch the War of 16-year-olds without subtitles.
They're just illiterate, but they're really into art house cinema.
But they're Philistines.
Right, so. Right. So people walked out of Funeral Parade of Roses. And so, like, look, I've seen this before, but I realized none of the other board members had. But it's a movie that you know the name of, right? And you know John. I mean, like, anybody I think who knows cinema has heard of John Waters, especially because Hairspray's popularity is huge at this point.
Yeah, because Hairspray transcends any kind of.
And so when you think, maybe if you think of John Waters these days, you think Hairspray and maybe
Pecker,
Crybaby, Serial Mom, something along those. So okay, so like weird, like not like fucking. I mean,
everywhere.
And so as we get closer and closer, it becomes a foregone conclusion because we've already got it programmed in and the artwork's done. And like, I'm at this point trying to reach out to drag queens to come to talk at the show as well, which I was unfortunately not able to do, but I'm glad that they were all had other gigs, and we can't pay. So it's a whole thing that we couldn't, I could have, if it was a paying gig, I could have shifted the gears there a little bit, but unfortunately we are where we are. So here we go. We're going to show it. We're going to show an NC-17 movie. And so at the beginning of it, I stand up and I'm like, all right, I don't, for those of you who haven't seen it, and there were quite a few people in the crowd who had, right? For those of you who haven't seen it, here's what you're going to get into. So don't feel bad about leaving. We understand. We don't ever want to surprise people with the content that we're going to show on the screen. Like, it's going to have sexual assault. It's going to have rape. It's going to have artificial insemination of women. It's going to have animal torture. It's, it's scatological. It's, name it. And it is there. And I'll be damned, but if it wasn't like the funniest movie that we've had, and probably the most raucous crowd that we had. And yes, people were hiding their eyes, and people got up and went to but everyone came back. I'm not shocked. I'm just pleasantly surprised that we were able to. That's again what we want the film club to be is a moment where you can go in and say, okay, well, shit, this is not something I would have ever watched on my own. Or if I had watched it on my own, I probably would have turned it off at the 30-minute mark or the 40-minute mark, where there's semen in a guy's cupped hand and he's inserting it into a woman. And all of this sounds like, or the scene where we crush a chicken in between in between a rapist and one. You can argue
in between during a violent sexual encounter.
Right.
I'd like to close with the original trailer New Line Cinema used to sell Pink Flamingos. Notice, no footage from the actual movie is ever shown.
How did you happen to hear about it?
From some friends who saw it and thought it was absolutely marvelous.
Probably I'll be very insulted.
Rex Reed told us that it's fabulous.
Would you come out at midnight to see it?
Why go home at midnight? What are you going to see there?
I guess there's just two kinds of people, Miss Sandstone. My kind of people and assholes.
Fantastic. It's the third time I've been to it. It's an incredible head scene for people. Oh, it's marvelous. Absolutely.
Most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my whole life. Not to be believed.
Absolutely outrageous.
It was divine. Fabulous.
Oh my God, please do it!
That was even better than Cries and Whispers.
I think it's the future of city living.
Fantastic. It was really fun. Excellent.
Yes.
Loved it. Really good. Really good. Right? It's great. Piece of garbage.
The only part I didn't like was snakes. I have an aversion to snakes.
It was divine. I love religious movies.
It's a little gross, but I liked it.
Well, it was really the grossest film I'd seen. I think John Waters has got his finger on the pulse of America. I think he's got his thumb securely up America's ass.
I enjoy dirty things as much as everyone else does, but this isn't even dirty. It's just disgusting.
You want to roll through what the plot is? I've already talked through all this shit.
Sure. I want to say a couple things.
Yeah, please.
First, so I want to say just that these films are hyperbolic, subversive commentaries on, I would say, the film world and the art world, right? And I think Waters loves them both, right? Speaking of Waters, right, he emerged in the 60s and 70s making films in his hometown of Baltimore. These were low-budget films that pushed the boundaries of outrageous filmmaking and bad taste. These films usually starred his longtime collaborator Divine, who grew up on the same street as Waters, and people from the Dreamlanders, which was kind of like a ragtag group of actors and misfits, right?
All with varying degrees of acting talent.
Yeah, yes. Well, I mean, Waters would eventually build a reputation in the kind of the queer alt community and the art world. I just wanted to sort of, I know most people are going to know.
That's good though. That's
John
good.
Waters, and so.
So Pink Flamingos is simply a story about a murderous thief called
Babs Johnson.
Yeah, she's under the pseudonym of Babs Johnson.
She's the filthiest person alive.
Right. She's been voted the filthiest person alive. She's living on the lam in a trailer home with her son, her voyeuristic daughter, and is it not a daughter? It's just a voyeuristic girlfriend.
Cotton's like a friend lover sort of like character.
And then her mother, who is a
mentally disabled.
Yeah, a female baby who loves eggs.
And the Eggman.
Right, and the Eggman. And there is another group in town. The Nardells, is that what they're? Is that
the Marbles?
The Marbles. Okay, yeah.
And they're their competition,
and they want to become the filthiest people
in the filth business.
And so they run a underground baby making scheme where they kidnap young women. They have a man who inseminates them, and they sell those babies to lesbian couples. And they're looking to
but they also have heroin distribution bases in the local elementary schools.
So that's on the side there.
And in like other heinous business, right? I mean,
which is why they can't publicize themselves as much.
Right. Raymond Marble likes to expose himself to women in the park where he ties like a kielbasa to his penis, right? Or a turkey neck to his penis as well. I don't know why.
I'm not sure. The turkey necks was the craziest one. I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
Added like effect. I mean.
So we basically follow these two people as they kind of go about trying to become and to retain their filthy status. Babs goes around town. Cotton is Cotton is her son, or is that the
Crackers is the son.
Crackers the son.
Cotton
Thank
is
you.
the-
Cotton's is a voyeur. They all just go around doing their thing. Essentially, the mother is constantly waiting on the Eggman, and then when the Eggman finally does come with his case of eggs, they end up getting married to one another.
She just did it for the eggs.
She just did it for the eggs. There's a scene where Cracker. So in order to infiltrate Babs's family, the Marbles employ a variety of different women. One of them to go out and to date Cracker, so they can gather information about where they even live and what they're all doing. That's where the sex scene with the chicken comes in, because Cracker has chickens. So he has sex with the lady,
played by Cookie Mueller.
Yes,
who I think in almost all the movies has the same name, Cookie.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
But Cookie Mueller she moved to New York and became really well known as a writer, and kind of she was featured in a lot of Nan Goldin's photography work, and so that's who she kind of ran around with in New York. Had a medical advice column in, and I think it was the East Village Eye. I think earlier I probably said the Village Voice and I was wrong. Called Ask Dr. Mueller. But and her a collection of her writing was just republished by the publisher Semiotext, which is a big sort of they publish a lot of like Gilles Deleuze and so a lot of cinema work. They also just published a book on Fassbinder.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, so she became, she died at 40 years old from age-related pneumonia, but she kind of, left that crew and then, did something else and made something else.
Yeah, a lot of the Dreamland folks passed away early. Divine passed away at, I think, 42.
Lockery at 32.
Yeah, Lockery was the saddest, really, I think. As far as, dying of bleeding out because he was on PCP at the time.
And felt no pain and cut himself with a mirror.
Right.
Yeah.
I think out of all of the characters, especially those that are in, because as you start to get into Desperate Living, you start to see kind of it like breaking apart a little bit. And of course, people start. I would imagine that the fame and notoriety hurt a lot of them around this time frame. I know Divine goes on and does
theater. Divine wasn't in Desperate Living because she was theater.
Right. But I would imagine that all of that, these people probably weren't prepared to have the spotlight shown on them, especially as you're making these movies. And you've got to figure for, what, $10,000, $25,000, nothing dollars, right? And you're doing it on the weekends with your friends, and you're screaming the words, and everyone's acting differently. And you can't imagine. I can't imagine that. Look, you clearly know that Waters has talent, right? They can put this together. Waters had a big family backing, and so the fact that he had film and could put this together and blow up a 60mm, 30mm, 5mm, and it's as it's getting, I would assume that they thought, oh, this will be shown in Baltimore, and all my friends will see it, and maybe it's a midnight thing, but I can't imagine them ever thinking that my work's going to be eventually someday picked up by the Criterion Channel, and things like that, or is going to get such notoriety that it's going to start playing around the world essentially, and be a midnight staple for decades essentially. It's really kind of it's one of those things where when we talked about Joe, and not that it's a similar situation, but I would imagine that these are I don't know, just vulnerable. Is that degrading in a sense? But like these are artists that are coming from not necessarily wealthy backgrounds.
I think I do think it's different than Joe. I think what I mean is I think it's less exploitative.
Right.
So because at this time,
they're all friends, right? I get that.
Right. But also like none of them are making money. Waters is not going to make a ton of money off any of this.
Well, and Waters actually, Waters was pretty savvy business-wise when it all came down to it. So But I was just going to say, like, just from a perspective of like, by the time it all happened, like he wasn't like cutting out his friends or anything.
No,
like
that's
that.
right.
But
right.
Yeah,
I just mean that like he's not going to. Oh, I'm going to make pink flamingos. I'm not going to pay you guys anything. But this will become like a giant. I just mean that. Yes, he's savvy. He's smart. He's a good businessman or whatever. But he wasn't using these people. I think in the same way that a film like Joe uses these. Homeless people. And I mean, he'd worked with all these people for how long before a film like Pink Flamingos? They're all in Multiple Maniacs. They all did stuff before, right? He knew these people from before. So I do think they're vulnerable, but I also think they're vulnerable just because of
the nature of who they were.
Right? Right. And I don't think that, I mean, this is, not everybody makes it out.
True.
No,
true,
and I just mean, and I.
I mean, none of us do eventually.
Right, but I mean, think about people you grew up with, right? And some people still live in that same neighborhood, right? Some people still do the same job that their father did, right? I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that some people just end up staying where they are. Some people, like Lockery, try to go off and find a bigger kind of fame in New York, and it doesn't work. Right. People like Cookie Mueller go off, find a modicum amount of fame, and it still doesn't work. So I mean, I think they're vulnerable, but just because of who they are. Let me finish this summary, and then I want to read a quote to you.
Please.
So Divine and the Marbles engage in a tete-a-tete of filth. The Marbles eventually recognize the level of depravity they are up against. There is no matching Divine as she executes the Marbles in front of members of the press. All right, so I want to read you this quote, and I want to start here, right? So this is from Ebert.
Oh yeah,
this is the 25th. This is a review of the 25th kind of anniversary of the film. Pink Flamingos appeals to that part of our psyches in which we are horny teenagers at the county fair with fresh dollar bills in our pockets and a desire to see the geek show with a bunch of buddies so that we can brag about it at school on Monday. I don't think he's wrong in what he's saying. I just think he's wrong with the sentiment in which he says it.
Where it's negative, right? Yeah. I think this, I think this would have been very exciting to be around the time that this was released and being spoken about. Like, and I was coming over here, I was thinking about this. It's like, it's so rare. It still happens and it's not impossible, but like in this day of like ultimate information, and I think actually it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen a lot more as we move forward. But like this, in this day of everything's accessible, right? That an event like the Baltimore Film Festival screenings that are sold out night after night of Pink Flamingos, I would imagine that, that bootleg prints are being passed around and copies and when this hits VHS, copies are being passed around and being spoken about. And so to have that kind of like hushed awe of like, oh shit, we're really about to see something here, I think that would have been a lot of fun. It's weird to me that someone who wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls doesn't get this movie. Like, and I know it's grotesque, right? But it seems like Ebert never saw it with a crowd. It seems like Ebert sat alone in a theater,
in a screening room,
right, and was just disgusted by what he saw. And I get that, but I realize, but it feels like that he should have, of all people, he should have understood what that meant. I mean, because again, there's movies that he likes that are along the same wavelength, and there's still the same, quote unquote geek show that he's talking about. And so, yeah, I agree that this is a movie that you sit in disbelief and are laughing in spite of yourself more often than not. And then once you finally kind of let yourself, even for the more grotesque parts, if you can get past some of those that are in this movie is intent, like you shouldn't want to watch this movie. You shouldn't want to, and I think this is something that Waters taps into that I really don't believe that anyone else, there are instances, but like consistently did it where he knows a line and he wants you to be disgusted by this, and he knows that you won't be. He knows that you're going to sit there and you're going to laugh. And to kind of turn that mirror and that focus on this straight-laced bullshit society that we all live in, and that would the people that we try to hide from and push down. And there's a reason that these movies are in the Criterion Collection. Again, I know we've talked about this as not being the Criterion's not necessarily the gatekeeper of all things good, but there's a reason that these films are considered art films, and there's a shit ton of imitators that are not. And it's like you're never going to see Jackass being spoken about as in some revered tone. But these movies speak to something that is base and human and understands that there's sometimes we have to be shocked, and that shock is not always a negative thing. It brings us out of this kind of, I don't know, malaise and like just haze that we walk through. And so to be able to find these movies funny, to be able to find the shocking hilarious, and to sit into a crowd and have that collective experience where we're all just like one rolling in the aisles and but also in disbelief, and then we all look up when the fucking lights come up and we're like, oh shit, I can't look these other people in the eye because I just laughed at the guy who jerked off on his hand. Like I was guffawing at a guy who exposed himself to a woman in the park, and then she turned around and exposed her penis to the man.
And it freaked.
It's
like, oh my God, it ran away.
And to a birthday party that devolves into cannibalism, killing of cops and cannibalism, and where we're watching two people go in. Oh, Jesus Christ! And you're watching two people go into another home, lick every surface to degrade it, and then
curse it.
And then at that point, the mother and the son, she begins to fillet her son because of the moment, and he screams out, "Suck my balls, Mom." Kind of like, it's just like, and again, I can't imagine if you haven't seen this movie and you're listening to this podcast, you're like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? How can this be funny? And like the fellatio scene is hilarious and ridiculous and disgusting. And like, it's not, there's no eroticism to it at all.
Nope.
It is just a penis in a mouth, and you're just like, and it's being wrangled about like a piece of chewing gum. And you're like, what the fuck are we watching here? And then so when it comes down to like, Babs and Divine shooting the marbles at the end, and it's just almost, again, we're and the media is just eating it up. It's almost like she's turning the gun on. Obviously, I mean, the gun points directly at the camera, right? I mean, so it's just a matter of like, you can't beat this, and we're gonna walk away, and you're still gonna feel like shit because it's.
But also,
have a
this is what you want,
right?
And you want more of it,
right?
And you want to see it again in print, and you're going to say, "Oh, I can't believe I just watched that," but you're going to be thinking about it and going back to it over and over again. I mean, so I think a lot of these films, I mean, especially this one, is so sort of prescient in how it's commenting on the mass media and everything else,
right? And it sets up the punk movement and the drag movement. I mean, like there were drag queens before Divine. There weren't drag queens like there were today before Divine.
Right.
Divine invented that shit.
Right.
There was, again, this, like I said, this invented punk music. This invented fucking reality TV. And like, for better or worse, all of the shit that all of the early Fox TV shows that, when Fox first came out and it was Married with Children and all of that owes all of that kind of boundary pushing, kind of up against the edge where you don't quite go over, but you can waters went over.
Or you walk right up to
right.
Like
Water. This is Lenny Bruce.
Yeah.
This is Lenny Bruce saying fuck on stage so everyone else could. John Waters fucking laid that groundwork, man. Yeah. And it's something to behold. I don't necessarily recommend seeing it alone for the first time. It's just a lot, right? I mean, as you get into the Surfing Bird scene, and there's a guy who's literally singing Surfing Bird with his asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like those scenes are not harrowing. But they're intended to be, right? I mean, so like the scene where the chickens literally get killed on screen. I mean, it's just a matter of like, that's awful. It's hard to watch, but again.
But again, like this is all intentional. None of this was just like, all it was done with the intent to shock, with the intent to sort of, I think, also indict us as viewers, right? And none of it was just, oh, let's just do this for fun.
Right,
I think it was very pointed.
Right.
I mean, these films are all, and he said this, right? These films are exercises in bad taste. But to know what bad taste is, you have to have good taste first.
Right.
And I mean, I think he does.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
I would say that. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that I do think that all of these films are just a little long.
Yeah, they're not even that long.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. That's what I mean. They're not, but you're kind of like, okay, like we can.
Yeah. I think that's just indicative of a more amateur filmmaker who falls in love with, okay, I shot this, I'm going to have to keep it in.
Yeah.
Especially as you're filming on 16 millimeter and you've taken the time to actually block it and get the sound right and everything else. I do think that like so in Pink Flamingos when we're watching the trailer burn, obviously that's a big money shot, right? Yep. So every bit of that's on the screen. Yep. We could have just cut to the collapse, right? There's some, and again, I think a lot of it is just dealing with amateur actors who don't know how to deliver their lines in a timely manner, or in a specific kind of manner. So you're dealing with one person who's speaking way too fast and one person who's doing this too slow. Yeah. So, but I agree with you that, they all could have been, especially like, I think the next one, Female Trouble, could have been, I know that there's a couple of different cuts of Female Trouble. And there's a 97-minute cut, I think. And that one, all of these should be right around that 80 to 85 minute mark, and then you'd be good. Yeah. Which is what Polyester actually is. I know.
And Polyester was 81, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to dig into, or you want to talk about Female Trouble?
Let's do it.
Something you know about. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. Okay.
Look, the star of Pink Flamingos is here again. It's Divine. She's got balls, and she's got female trouble.
I'm a thief and a shit kicker, and I'd like to be famous.
Dawn Davenport is eating a meatball sandwich right out in class.
Here she is, Divine as Dawn Davenport, a feisty young high school girl.
My parents are going to be real sorry if I don't get them cha-cha heels.
Nice girls don't wear cha-cha heels.
Give me those presents. I'll never wear those ugly shoes. I told you to come out.
Yes, she had a lot of problems. And she found herself in big female trouble.
I just wanted to tell you that I'm pregnant and I want money.
Just because you got them big udders don't mean you're something special.
It's hard being a loving mother. I give her free food, a bed, clean underpants. What does she expect?
Look in the mirror, Taffy. For 14, you don't look so good.
Never have I encountered such a morally bankrupt group of people.
If they're smart, they're queer. And if they're stupid, they're straight.
Crime enhances one's beauty. The worse the crime gets, the more ravishing one becomes.
I'm going to chop off your scrawny little paw.
Watch as Divine performs the most perverse acts ever brought to the screen.
I blew Richard Speck. And I'm so fucking beautiful I can't stand it myself. Shut up!
You'll follow Divine's life of sex and crime from its tawdry beginning to its very end.
That is comfortable, too.
Share the tears and laughter with Divine, Edith Massey as Aunt Ida, and the Pink Flamingos Gang. A new high in low taste. John Waters' Female Trouble. She had a lot of problems. Coming soon from Saliva Films.
Female Trouble. This is the life and times of Dawn Davenport, as played by Divine. The film shows Dawn as a somewhat troubled, spoiled teenage girl who progresses to a criminal, murderer, performer. After not getting the gift of cha-cha heels she wanted for Christmas, Dawn has a violent altercation with her parents and runs away from home. She's raped, becomes a single mother, a sex worker, leading to a meeting with the Dashers, who use Dawn in their project to prove crime and beauty are as one. The Dashers mount a nightclub show starring Dawn, complete with trampoline and dead fish and Dawn brandishing a gun and shooting the crowd. After a trial in which everyone lies, Dawn is sentenced to death. Before being executed, she thanks all her fans for her notoriety. Wait. Okay, I have another quote for you.
Yeah.
Okay, this one was on the poster.
Right, from Rex Reed.
Where do these people come from? Where do they go when the sun goes down? Isn't there a law or something? And he hated this film.
Right. And this is fuck. And I love that they used it on the poster because fuck you, Rex Reed.
Fuck you, Rex Reed. Right.
Like, again, this idea, this is who was the fucking guy who didn't like Funeral Parade of Roses?
Oh, Vincent Canby.
Yeah, Canby. I mean, this is the same fucking thing. Just say you don't get it.
Right. Because that's what it is.
This is not watching some bad parody. If you can't watch this and understand that there's something more to than what's being presented, and that there's something beyond this. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, and again, not that we're fucking perfect by any means, or for as far as film critics go, but I would never say, where do these people come from? I mean, right. Yeah, that's ridiculous. This idea of like, oh, we've uncut, and like, did you not see Pink Flamingos?
What did you expect?
Right. What the fuck did you expect? It came out 4 years ago, dickweed.
This one will be different.
Right. That's the thing. And that's also with the Vincent Canby stuff. I'm just like, it's okay not to like a movie. Absolutely. Then just don't go see the other films. Like, and again, and don't pretend like you didn't see the other ones.
Right.
When you're reviewing this one. I mean, I whatever, man. Fuck that guy.
That's pretty much all I wanted from that quote was fuck this guy.
Fuck Rex Reed.
But I do find that is, I mean, I love that they use it on the poster because it is calling attention to this, right? Calling attention to this kind of ignorance, this kind of, almost like Rex Reed othering these people.
Right.
Saying like, oh, you lift up a rock and this is what you find.
Right. This is literally the scum of the earth, the worst of the worst, right?
Right. There should be a law against these people. It's like, well, you know what? There probably was.
Right. Yeah.
You asshole.
Right.
I think
it helps us not have those fucking laws.
There you go. Right. Because that's what Waters is doing.
Right.
I mean, on a level of camp, right? And sort of hyperbole. Again, this is all played over the top. All three of these movies are just played way over the top. If you think he's being serious in terms of like, oh, it's okay to eat dog shit or whatever. Right. I mean,
right.
You don't get it. Right. I mean, he's calling attention to these things. I think there's a lot of love from Waters in all these films for these people, for these outsiders, right? For these misfits. I mean, look, Mortville and Desperate Living literally is the island of misfit toys.
Right.
So I think he loves these people and he is humanizing them. He is saying like, these people exist and they're just as much, or they have just as much right to exist as you and I.
Right. I find Dawn's journey through this movie probably the most poignant of like all of these. I mean, obviously there's not really much of a plot or like character growth in Pink Flamingos, and Desperate Living it's a whole other beast, which because Desperate Living is Pee-wee's Playhouse. It is legit Pee-wee's Playhouse, right? For an X-rated Pee-wee's Playhouse. Mm-hmm. This one feels like, and I have to believe that Todd Solondz did Welcome to the Dollhouse and named his character Don Wiener for Don Davenport. It couldn't have been a different, I mean, there's no possible, I won't accept any other explanation for that.
Right.
And so this idea of a person who's just trying to rebel for rebellion's sake and trying to figure out, and hopefully something of one of these things will stick. All of this movie, where Divine literally fucks herself, and because he plays Earl, another a person who picks up Dawn as she's running away from home because she didn't get Cha-Cha shoes on Christmas Day, and takes her out to a dirty mattress and has sex with her with his dirty underwear on, which is awful. And then Dawn having a young child who's rambunctious and won't listen while she's trying to commit crimes, in a variety of different, like very, very non-disguising disguises. And she comes up with a group of friends. And then, of course, her daughter grows up and starts to continue to rebel.
She just wants to go to school.
Right. Yeah. She just wants to go to school. And then, of course, she, this one is probably my least favorite out of the three, because it is just so fucking screamy. This was the screamiest of the Scream one. Yeah, my wife walked into the room. She's like, "Is this just screaming? Like, is this the whole movie just about screaming?" And I was like, "Man, pretty much. It's pretty much screaming. Everybody's line is all of the lines are screamed." I do think that once she meets the people who own the salon, it becomes a better movie. It becomes a lot more fun. I mean, obviously, when she becomes scarred up, and it's because it almost becomes like Sick of Myself at a certain point. Where, like where she's
had acid thrown on her by the mother of her ex-husband at this point, right?
Right.
And it is just kind of like, tell me I'm beautiful, right? Tell me my scarred face is beautiful, and let me do all these crazy things for attention.
And they like inject eyeliner into her veins, and like there's
like it's
she becomes more and more extreme in her look, where she's like, she starts to become more of an Edna Turnblad and more into Divine, basically. So she becomes less, more of a traditional drag queen. And then as the movie progresses, she becomes Divine. Did you know that scene where she's like throwing fish, and that where she's like
at the end
confessing to crimes, that's one of the things that Divine did actually on stage, was based off a real stage thing.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Yeah. I did know that Waters made her go to the YMCA and train on the trampoline.
She did really good, man.
Yeah.
I was not expecting the backflip. I was just like, holy shit, she almost pulled it off.
I had read that he made her go and like actually like practice this stuff. And so I was waiting to see like what she did. And what I also love about the trampoline scene is that the joy and exuberance seemed so real, which, I mean, maybe it was that she was having like just a great time.
Right.
I mean, trampolines are fun. Right. And when she almost pulled off that backflip, she gets so I just loved it. Yeah. I mean, it was so childlike and just so
right.
I mean, again, like going back to the Pee-wee thing, this like love of something. Right?
What a fearless performer. I'd like to kind of bare your soul out there. And I know that becomes part of your persona, right? And you've kind of got to like then live up to that. But like to do that film over film, and just to have like really to not be self-conscious and to like kind of just let yourself be exposed like that is pretty impressive.
What was one of the famous things that she used to say at like the shows that she did? She's like, you paid $10 to get in here. 8 of that is for the theater. 10 of that is to fuck me after the show. Line up over there. I'll be here till Christmas. But I think this idea, and I don't mean necessarily you and I,
right?
But I mean, we in general, I don't think we understand how hard it is or how brave you have to be to do this shit.
Right.
And what I mean is for Divine to be who Divine wants to be, to go up there and to have these performances, to bare one's soul, to dress and drag and say, no, this is who I am.
Right.
We don't give people credit for that. Well, we demonize them, but we don't go, Jesus fucking Christ, that has to be hard, because everyone tells you not to do it.
Well, and to be so convincing that in Pink Flamingos, people don't realize you're a man.
Right.
I mean, a good portion of the audience, and it's never really revealed. You just, I mean, like eventually but I mean, that says something.
Well, and even in this film, I mean, Divine is never a man in drag.
No.
The character's always a woman.
Right.
So, I mean, Dawn in high school is a high school girl.
Right.
And I mean, that's something I love, is that, Waters is saying, just, here's this person for who they are or who they want to be, and not for how we see them as some large man dressed up as a woman.
Right. This is the first film, true, that seemingly starts to address the homosexual aspect of it all, because they really start talking about how men are shit, and that like are being like Dawn. They don't want, there's aspects where they don't want, it's Cracker, who the actor who played Cracker. Gator in this movie, where his mom doesn't want him to be straight, that she wants him to be gay.
Hi, stud.
And of course, he ends up falling for Dawn, and then tries to sleep with her daughter in a very openly nude scene. A lot of so if you're gonna dive into these movies, just be prepared for
lots of swing and dick.
A lot of swing and dick.
Yeah,
not quite as much as in Can't Stop the Music, which was the PG rated Village People biopic, but still quite a bit of dick. And dick pointed right at you. In this movie specifically, you get Earl's dicks pointed right at you.
Right. Yep. One thing I also really liked about this film is that, the explicit idea in this film about crime and art and beauty all being sort of wrapped up into one thing. And he got that from Tex Watson, right?
Right.
Going to see him in jail and sort of, and wasn't there like a wooden helicopter in this one with
I think so.
Tex car gave to Waters. But this idea of like crime being beautiful and crime being art, I don't know. I like the exploration. I like the exploration of that in this film, and I think it makes for another kind of intellectual exercise that this film is already engaging in, right? And yeah, I don't know.
Well, and like I said, Dawn's embrace of whatever her fate may be, right? She's upset that the people who got her to where she was betrayed her, but then once she's sentenced to death, it's a whole new opportunity for her to become Dawn, right? It's a whole new opportunity for her to be famous and to get fans and nothing. It's I think it's also a testament that aside from one little piece, nothing really phases Dawn. Dawn has emotional ups and downs, but stays the course the entire fucking film. She never strays from being who she wants to be, and she's still a little girl who wants cha-cha shoes, right? And so all the way throughout the film, she stays true, even when everyone else is kind of betraying or trying to take advantage of her. And again, that's why I think that's part of the reason I think Solondz did Dawn Wiener, is it's the same kind of thing. But yeah, no, I like I said, this one is harder to watch for me just because it like you said, 97 minutes, it's a little too long. Had we not reintroduced a lot of the the extra scenes, we probably could have kept it to a quick 85. I'm good. Yeah. But I really like Divine's role in this one, probably out of all of them the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course she's not in the next one, so it's easy. But
yeah, and I like the ideas of crime, art, and beauty, but also this kind of subversive and bizarre take on celebrity as well.
Yeah.
So cool.
All right.
Desperate living, as we're all doing.
It's contagious. It's outrageous. It's John Waters' Desperate Living, starring Hollywood sex goddess Liz Renee.
Oh, that support feels heavenly.
Susan Lowe as androgynous Mole McHenry.
If you don't give me the sex change, I'll cut off your Peter and throw it on me myself.
And Mink Stoll as hysterical outpatient Peggy Gravel.
Get out of here, you stinking piece of flesh!
Yes, they've all had a lot of desperate living.
Ah! Oh, God! Find 'em, feel 'em, suck 'em, forget 'em! Is that your new motto? Ah! I'm a man, Muffy! A man trapped in a woman's body!
Follow the dead-end road to Mortville, USA.
Look around you! It's a village of idiots!
Seize her and fuck her!
Mortville, the bad taste town.
Dinner served! I'm really not that hungry. Are you infectious, honey? I don't know. My saliva tastes funny.
Watch the most perverse sex acts ever brought to the screen.
Harder!
Step into a world too desperate to play by the rules.
It isn't very pretty what a town without pity can do.
Desperate Living, featuring Edith Massey, the Egg Lady, as Queen Carlotta.
Hi, stupid! Hi, ugly!
Don't miss this rabid feast of cinema decadence from the creator of Pink Flamingos, John Waters' Desperate Living. It isn't very pretty. Coming soon from Saliva Films.
Neurotic and delusional suburban housewife Peggy Gravel and her nurse, Griselda, murder Peggy's husband and go on the run. They are sexually assaulted by a cross-dressing cop who tells them they can go on the run or go to Mortville, a shanty town populated by depraved, filthy outsiders and criminals and run by the evil Queen Carlotta. They end up living with Mole, an angry lesbian, and Muffy St. Jacques. What a name. The queen banishes her daughter Coco after she elopes with a garbage collector, Hector, whom the queen guards shoot and kill. Peggy betrays Coco to the guards, and Griselda is killed in the battle. Peggy goes to work for the queen and infects Coco with rabies. Eventually, Mortville's denizens, led by Mole, overthrow Queen Carlotta and execute Peggy by shooting a gun up her anus. To celebrate their freedom, the townsfolk roast Carlotta on a spit and serve her, pig-like, on a platter with an apple in her mouth. Critics from Good Housekeeping walked out of this film after 10 minutes. Playboy liked it, though.
I hope that they were both in the same screening. They met in the lobby beforehand. Oh, like, what magazine do you cover? Oh, Good Housekeeping. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
This was the hardest one to sort of figure out how to summarize because it's just all over the place.
This is my favorite one.
It's wild.
Fucking love this movie, man. It's so
wild.
So much fun. I mean, Peggy's obviously the first Karen, right? I mean, she's just as
everything.
She's having a breakdown at the beginning of the movie, and somebody calls with the wrong number, and she's like, "No, apologies. You can't apologize to me. How
you just wasted these seconds of my life."
It's like, I hope you die. I hope your husband dies. I hope your kids die.
One of the kids hits a baseball through a window, and she's like, "An assassin tried to kill me," and the kid just goes, "Oh, Mom." And another kid is like, "I'll pay for the window out of my allowance. I'm sorry, Mrs. Gravel."
I mean, like, is there a better display on film of white privilege or white angst?
Right.
Like, it's fucking crazy how spot on it is.
Right.
And like to everything, like, oh my God, it really is like fucking show this movie because she walks in on two young kids playing doctor, and they're not touching. I mean, like they're not doing anything, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're raping your sister.
The kids are having sex.
Like you're probably pregnant."
I never thought you'd be someone who raped your sister, and you're like, "What?"
Like,
that's right. You're pregnant.
And they weren't doing anything. They were just sitting there. Yes, they were naked, but they were just sitting there playing, and they're both like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like we weren't doing anything," and it's. Like all of it is just taken up to the next fucking level.
To 11.
And then you know her housekeeper.
So is she her housekeeper or her psychiatric nurse?
Oh, I don't know. It's a good question. I couldn't really. I mean, it seemed like she was taking care of the house in addition to being a nurse.
Because I couldn't quite tell either.
Yeah, I don't know. The way that he was talking to her, I just assumed, like the way that the husband was talking to her, I just assumed that she was the housekeeper. She sits on him, suffocates him, and
she's a large.
She's a large
woman.
lady. Yeah. Do you know the cop that that stops them? It eventually became like the Baltimore film commissioner. This cop who like pulls them over, makes them both take their underwear off. He puts them on and then kisses them, and of course Peggy. Who we've been calling Karen, Peggy says, "Not a kiss. Mount me if you must, but not a kiss."
The dialogue, "Mount me if you must, not a kiss."
The dialogue in this one, I think, is the best. I think
good.
Waters is really on point on this one. Was
that Ed Perenio?
Yeah, I think so.
Because he did all the sets too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the cop, in order to, so they're looking for them because they've murdered the husband. And he's like, "I'll let you go, and you can go off to this basically town of misfit toys." Queen Carlotta, you know, at one point, I mean, again, so this is just now a series of vignettes of like they, you know, where we're going to different people in, in Mortville or Moortown, and at one point, they're all beholden to the whim of Queen Carlotta, essentially. And she makes...
One day is backwards day.
One day is backwards day. So for the rest of the film, for the most part, she makes them put their clothes on backwards and walk backwards. That's what she wants them to do.
And they'll be executed.
And then at some point, she comes out And she's like, your clothes are on backwards, you idiots.
The queen is played by Edith Massey, who was also the mom, the egg woman.
And Gator's mom in Female Trouble.
Ida in Female Trouble.
And she's in Polyester as well. This movie is so like ridiculous but like whimsical. Like there's a whole scene where the one of the plot threads is that when Peggy left her husband, she took a lottery ticket. And so for the lottery ticket, in order for them to live in this apartment, this shack up with Mole and Herb, who's the Muffy and Mole and Muffy, they require them to make payment, and part of the payment's the lottery ticket, and of course the lottery ticket hits. And so then Mole goes off into town to buy a sex change, in addition to a whole bunch of other stuff.
At Johns Hopkins.
Right. They go to Johns Hopkins.
Because Mole goes to Baltimore and goes to Johns Hopkins.
So, and she threatens the doctor. She wants her tits cut off. And then she threatens the doctor and says, if you don't give me the sex change, I'll cut your dick off and sew it on to me. She goes back to try to make love to Muffy with this Frankenstein dick that she has on her.
What does she say? Never go soft.
Right. Muffy's freaked out by it, doesn't want to have sex with her, so she cuts the dick off.
With scissors.
Throws it off, and a German Shepherd eats it. They all go back, like, so they all of the characters tell you how they got into Moretown. I'm saying that right?
It's Mortville, right?
Mortville. And so when Mole gets there,
I don't think anyone's going to correct it.
Right, sure, right. Yeah. When Mole, what she did to get there, she was a female wrestler and who basically killed a couple people in the ring. But her costume has a giant vagina on the front of the costume. Oh man! And like all of the enforcers for Queen Carlotta are all. Dressed in kind of
S&M
type costumes and things like that.
She makes them dance.
This is a lot more of a homosexual lesbian film as well. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Waters is beloved in the queer community, but you can see why. I mean, like it's just providing a voice to these characters and providing normalcy to these characters, and not even in these films are normal, but I mean.
No, right. But it does provide a kind of normalcy, even if that normalcy happens in a town like Mortville, where no one is normal.
Right.
But I think that is, you said something earlier about kind of, his subversive view on society, and that's what this is. I mean, this goes from the suburbs to Mortville, which is just another kind, right. Of quote-unquote suburb or small town. But this one has sort of the depraved and outsiders that live there, not your red brick houses and manicured lawns.
Queen Carlotta's castle is literally just plywood. It looks like a high school set or junior high set at that best.
It's great.
When she is, when Peggy, like there's so much going on in this movie too. Like because again, Peggy ends up like the daughter, the princess doesn't come in until kind of late. And then you're just kind of expected to know who she is because they all bow to her when she shows up. And she's like, look, I'm not my mom.
Right. Because she goes to the nudist colony to meet up with Hector, the garbage collector.
And so once kind of the princess is kind of excommunicated and Queen Carlotta picks up and Peggy kind of worms her way into, which did you ever figure out like why she's limping? Do you ever think that was like why did she have a cane the entire time?
The entire time she's got a big brace on her leg and a cane.
Okay.
I don't know. No idea.
But she kind of pledges loyalty to Queen Carlotta and says, I can give your daughter rabies. That was the whole plan of like infecting everyone with rabies, essentially. So they'd all go rabid and kill each other. She does that. But eventually, then everyone kind of saves her, essentially, in a way. And since they all have this money now and they've all kind of banded together, they turn on Peggy and they literally shoot her in the ass.
Yeah.
Like literally stick a gun up her ass and shoot. And you get to see the aftermath.
Yeah.
And then
which you don't get to see in Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Who knew? Who knew the connection between those two films?
There's a couple of like ridiculous lovemaking scenes. Obviously, who's the actress who plays the nurse? Do you remember her name?
No, but I'll find it.
But she's a large person, and Peggy, played by Mink Stoll, is
Gene Hill.
So Gene Hill and Mink Stoll are together, and there's a whole session where she's screaming about how to eat it, Peggy, eat it, Peggy. It's like
I don't know what to do.
Right, I don't know what to do. And didn't she say something along the lines of like, if it's good enough for Gloria Steinem, then it's good enough. Like it's good enough for you.
Right. It's a kind of like jailhouse sex too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's also coupled with Mole and Muffy's sex scene as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Muffy is the kind of quintessential quote unquote like
lipstick lesbian.
Yeah.
Buxom blonde.
There's a scene like Peggy keeps getting accosted out in Mortville. She goes to the bathroom at one point where this kind of prostitute like tries to proposition and gets under the stall, and then there's
like glory hole boobs.
So like she's constantly offended by everything. Like she, and it's funny. I mean, again, just to kind of paint it with that Karen brush, is that she goes along with things where she has no other choice. But as soon as she can rally against something, she's going to rally against something and throw it under the bus. And then of course they kill Queen Carlotta and roast her, and that scene's really, I mean, like obviously you don't see the scene, but they carry her out of the castle, and it's just kind of this grotesque kind of like meaty blob. And then it's very much like the Babs birthday scene where they're all just kind of dancing around
and eating,
right? And then the end.
Yep.
This was this is like to me just the funniest one that he's done, and like because it feels so much. It feels just less serious than the other two. It's I don't know. It's less daunting. Like the nudity and the incest and the rape and everything else that's involved in it just seems like it's a lot more fun than the other ones.
There's a lighter touch to this.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just, one, the sets are so crazy, and then two, just watching people walk around backwards for 30 minutes is pretty fucking funny.
It's pretty funny.
And again, it's not blinked at. It's just they just accept it. They just walk backwards, and you're just like, okay, well, this is. And then when they get into their rooms and they're not seen by anybody, they take off their
turn
clothes
around
and walk forward.
They all go to the bar and they end up, they take their coats off and.
But yeah, I just the scene that really, I mean, like obviously when you see Moles' fake dick, and that she's so excited about it and so excited about what it's going to afford her, and then that Muffy doesn't like it, so she just like gets all upset. And then there's a very brutal sewing up scene where Moles is like, well, now I've got a Barbie doll crotch.
It's just great. Yeah. It's like, well, that's apropos for the moment.
Right, exactly.
But I think that also speaks to something very serious where Muffy, again, who's a kind of like lipstick lesbian, she will talk. At one point, she's late to dinner, and Mole is sort of, chastising her. And she's like, I was having an erotic dream. And she's talking about, getting ready to have sex with a man. And Mole is jealous and is like, well, don't I satisfy you or whatever. And Muffy says something like, yeah, but you don't have that really big deal, right?
Right.
You don't have a dick.
Right.
And, of course, Mole stabs Muffy through the hand with like a carving fork. But there is this kind of then jealousy between Mole and Muffy Muffy plays on that. Right? And at a certain point, Muffy says that. I didn't really want you to I like you how you are. I just say those things to make you jealous. I don't really want to sleep with men.
Right.
And the ambiguity between the two of them in regards of sex and what is satisfying to one or the other, I think is a really interesting kind of smart conversation that goes on in that film.
Yeah. I definitely think that the dialogue in the script is much better in Desperate Living. I think the sensibilities of really, this gets to kind of be Lynchian and Blue Velvety kind of in a way, where, the opening sequence and the opening title crawl just speaks to a filmmaker who is kind of really kind of figuring out how to marry trash and comment together and get it across to a different audience. Because you can see through each one of these films, the quote unquote vulgar, shocking content becomes lesser and lesser, or it's treated in a much different manner,
or it becomes like more refined.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's not all. Yeah, and again, we say that as. Oh, yeah, my favorite part's when he cut his dick off and the German Shepherd ate it. Yeah, I get it. I get
that. We can do both. We can be childish and then
right. I will say, like, I don't. If you're going out to watch these films, especially for the first time, I don't recommend watching them back to back to back.
It's tough.
I do think you should give them some separation. Yeah. So watch Pink Flamingos, and then give it a week. Or something,
and then watch
Female Trouble. Give that a week, and then watch, because I think it's one, the characters are so similar. You got obviously the same players that it's easy to get kind of lost between the three. And
it's also easy to see the connections, though. Too.
Right? True. Like I said, the progression works really well, and then going directly into like I said, looking at the 5 films from Pink Flamingos to Hairspray, you can clearly see his progression and his softening. And his kind of coming to, obviously Hairspray still has a message to tell and is still providing subversion, but it's just doing it in a family friendly manner. But yeah, I just like trying to keep all the threads apart of like, especially because you're talking about Ida and Carlotta and Egg Lady
and all the same actors,
right?
Yeah.
I was reading that it took 3 hours to sew Ida into that skin tight costume in Female Trouble.
Interesting. Sort of a black leather,
like lace up the sides.
Yeah.
And I think, it's funny, like in 2 of the movies that she's kind of immobile, like for the most part.
Right. Yeah. In Pink Flamingo, she's in a crib, and then in Desperate Living, she's on her queen cot.
Right.
And put me in my queen cot. Lift me in my queen cot. But she's also in Multiple Maniacs. She's like a barkeep.
Yeah.
And so she's moving around.
And she moves around in polyester too. She's quite mobile in polyester. It's just the scene where one of her cops is dancing for her, and she's like, "I want the meat and potatoes," and like it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, is that I think that Waters by this time knows what his actors are capable of and knows what they're capable of pulling off from a script wise. I think he's writing for them better. I think some of the people that he had, like in Flamingos and Female Trouble, he knew where to let them kind of go and kind of speak to the general tone. By the time that he gets to Desperate Living, I think that just feels like a more on the page kind of movie where I can see like all the words coming out of Waters' mouth, and it's the dialogue is crisper in a lot of ways where. Even though if it's not necessarily delivered in the most professional manner, at least it's kind of like
better
than
it was.
It's like a Kevin Smith Clerks kind of thing, where it's just like, okay, I know what I want them to say. They may not be able to say it, like pull it off, but I know what I want them to say.
That's like how I am most of the time.
Sure,
I know what I want to say,
right,
but I don't think I can pull it off,
right.
And then I don't,
right, and then I just forget, and I just say something stupid. So it's fine,
right? That's a good way to go through life. Anything else about those? I mean, go check them out. They are a lot of fun. But yeah, watching them in quick succession is not the way to go. Right. I also just think they're a lot.
Right.
I mean, they are.
I would say make sure you know who Waters is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, go out and do some reading or watch some interviews with him. I think it's important to kind of like get the artist's perspective on the art. Especially in this case, and I think Waters has done a good job of this, like providing context to a lot of it as well, without just kind of. I mean, there's still a need for you to understand, but it's also not you're not desperately. He's just not throwing shit in your face and expecting you to, enjoy it,
eat it,
right? That's for Divine to do.
Okay, do you want to talk about some films that listeners might like if they like these?
Do
okay.
I'll go first.
I'm interested because I did this as kind of like a trilogy.
Oh, really?
So
you went Pink Flamingos.
What I mean is instead of going if you like this film, you like this film. I did. If you like these 3, you might like these 3.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
okay, good. So my first one is Greasy Strangler, by Jim Hoskins, I think. Very much kind of in the same vein of like this gross out, fun humor. I don't think it has the same social commentary, but it has a lot of the same, like, oh shit, I can't believe what I'm actually watching kind of thing. So
Okay. All right. Yours are probably going to be more over the top than mine.
That's fine.
No. I just that wasn't.
And
like,
yours is
said with any
Indiana
judgment.
Jones, Temple of Doom, right?
Last Crusade, actually. But yeah. No, so with the first movie that I linked with these is the Doom Generation.
Okay. Yeah.
A heterosexual film by Greg Araki.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Although I wonder if like Totally Fucked Up would have been a better one. Yeah. Anyway, Greg Araki. Early work by Rose McGowan. So that's the first one that I think would be good.
My number 2 is Citizen Ruth. An early Alexander Payne film, just about a young girl who gets pregnant. She's basically told that she can't be. She huffs paint.
Laura Dern.
Yeah, and she's told that she can't get pregnant anymore, and it's kind of her like crusade against the world. Really good, and it was kind of subversive and interesting kind of first entry, especially to a filmmaker who's kind of David Gordon Greened himself in a couple of occasions.
Yeah. I did not expect Alexander Payne to be linked with John Waters in this episode. Right. Well, my second one then is, I had 2, but I'm going to go with Please Baby Please.
Right.
A new film by Amanda Kramer starring Andrea Riseborough, Harry Potter's Harry Melling.
Yeah.
Carl Glusman, who I really like, and a cameo by Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But high camp, subversive, dealing with a lot of, I think, similar issues with identity and sexuality that Waters does.
My last one, and I'm pulling it up on my phone because I don't know how to say their last names. But my last one is Greener Grass by Jocelyn de Boer and Don Lube. It is about, it has a kind of Waters aesthetic. It is very kind of a surrealist comedy about these soccer moms who are doing anything to kind of fit in. And it's it got a really kind of small, limited release. I actually saw it at the Granbury, like by myself, like essentially. But the poster is like a woman in a pink dress, and like, and her face is like a big set of lips. So yeah, and it's based on a short film that they did. They've done some other films as well. But yeah, Greener Grass is my third choice.
Okay. My third one is by a director who you've mentioned already today, but it's not Welcome to the Dollhouse. It's Happiness.
There we go. Yeah.
By Todd Solondz.
It's a lot of semen.
It's another film though that is extremely difficult to watch at times, but where Solondz seems to be doing something similar that Waters did with outcasts and misfits and the depraved in different ways.
Yeah, Solondz seems angrier, right? I mean,
right,
and
none of this is done as kind of
so,
funny,
right?
Yeah,
and I think there is really, really dark humor in Happiness.
Yes,
I mean, like, and to the extent of like, it's not Welcome to the Dollhouse, right? It's not. I mean, Welcome to the Dollhouse is, almost Desperate Living to be on. I mean,
right,
to extent. I mean, like the Happiness is just fucking brilliant. I mean, it's really, really good. And it's really, really, really fucking hard to watch. I mean, so like the incest is gut wrenching and gut. I mean, like there's not really incest in this movie. But it is, there's child molestation that kind of references incest, and there's sexual assault and just emotional manipulation. And it's, yeah. It is the fact that you can again, like to that point. I mean, where Waters is able to find and mine humor out of that, Todd is as well. I mean, you don't walk out of that. I mean, like, and again, that last scene,
it's ridiculous. I mean, it's
right,
and it's almost played for laughs. I mean, yeah, but I also think there's like real introspection in this film, and I think that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Right? That. Yeah, there's this like subtle dark humor, but there's also like it, for better or worse, makes you think quite a bit.
Yeah. No, good choice.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
It was.
Okay. All right. Well, tell the folks what we're doing next time.
Next time, we're going back to the Cassavetes Well, and going
so
into
uplifting films.
Right. What are we seeing? We seeing Faces
and Husbands.
Right. We're skipping over the one that he was taken away from him because
we'll touch on it.
If Cassavetes can't have it, neither can we.
But we can talk about it. We can watch it and talk about it. Is that what you want to do?
No,
Is that what you want to do, Jason?
Don't. You know, I warned you about I'll talk out of my asshole. And
God. Wait, don't you already?
Well, yes. Figuratively speaking, yes. I'm just
so you mean literally this time.
Talking out of my asshole.
All right, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Faces and Husbands, probably what are you going to, I mean, like, I don't think those are, I think those are well-known, well-worn Cassavetes films. So we're getting into the meat, right? This is,
we're getting into now his kind of, his best recognized kind of run.
I think this is going to be, this is probably kicking off the films that I think people would fall back on and say, okay, I've seen Cassavetes and this is what I've seen. Although you get into obviously Women Under the Influence, and that's going to be, probably I would say the pinnacle, but
nadir.
Yeah. But so we'll go to those. I don't think, do we have anything else we want to talk about as far as contemporary films?
Man, you know how we do. We never know.
Right. Like we'll find something else to throw in there. It won't just be 2 films because there's no reason we'd ever do that.
Assuming I can get out to see it. Have you seen Talk to Me yet?
I have.
Okay. So I haven't yet.
I'm interested.
Okay.
We can definitely speak to Talk to Me.
Okay. So next time we'll check in on Talk to Me, and we'll get back to Cassavetes with Faces and Husbands. And I don't know. I'm sure we'll have some surprises for all the listeners out there. Okay. Anything else, Jason?
Nothing else on my end.
All right. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Keep screaming.
Maybe I'm twisted. Female trouble. They say I'm a mistake, but I don't care. Go ahead, put me in your electric chair. I got lots of problems.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,